Welcome to the Blue Collar Enlightenment Show. It's Jonah here. We're going to be down a host. Trevor's not here with us today. He's out with some personal issues. But today I'm doing an interview with a paranormal investigator with 15 years of experience. He's the founder of East Coast Paranormal Investigations. And he's here with his fiance, Benjamin Hunt and Amber Tatlock. Welcome to the show. How are you two doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Great. So what was the whole inspiration behind East Coast Paranormal Investigations?
We started doing things like cemeteries and abandoned factory that's actually right behind our house. When it really started was when when COVID hit. Everything was shut down. We didn't want to be stuck in our house like a lot of people were. So we decided to take that time to, get some paranormal equipment and travel and just go to different places and see different things that we haven't seen before. What really started East Coast Paranormal was when we were heading to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. We just woke up one day and just decided we're just going to take a spontaneous trip. As we were driving, she looked up on her phone, Amber looked up on her phone, places where we can go. And I just told her to find a hotel that we could stay at for the night. And she found Jim Thorpe, the inn at Jim Thorpe in Pennsylvania. We started heading there because the place looked beautiful. She started doing more research on our way there, and she found out that the inn was actually a haunted inn. And we were like, awesome, So when we got there, we talked to the lady at the front desk, and we asked her, like, is this place really haunted? And she's like, oh yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. Give us your most haunted room. So she gave us room 310. As we were heading up to our room, she pretty much stopped us and was just like, hold on, here's 2 more room keys.
She really active rooms.
Yeah, so she handed us 2 more room keys, gave us access to the basement, and it was awesome. So we went there. We pretty much got access to as much of the building as we wanted. There was only us there and a group of guys who looked like they were just having like a bachelor party or something, drinking and shit. We had some pretty good experiences there, and I think after that it really wanted us, to get more serious, and that's when we created decided on the name East Coast Paranormal Investigations, and that's pretty much how it started.
Okay. A specific question for Amber. Were you into paranormal investigations before you met Ben, or did he kind of drag you into it?
I had I was always interested in the paranormal, but I didn't have the courage to be like, let's start this group, let's go do this. So he kind of gave me the motivation. He brought it up. He's like, hey, what do you think about doing this? And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Hell yeah, that's freaking awesome. So for both of you, the question is, what was the experiences you had that led you into being interested in what you do now?
Well, my experiences, when I was a kid, all I really heard was, I loved hearing about people's stories. I loved hearing ghost stories and paranormal stories and, things like that. I was always interested in that stuff because, when I was a little kid, my mom got me huge into horror movies. So hearing people's ghost stories were what I wanted to hear. I loved it. So when I was about 13 years old, we moved into this apartment. My mom, she was on a ladder when we first moved in, trying to change a light bulb in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, all you could hear is a big crash. So when I ran into the kitchen, she's on the floor, and she said she felt someone push her off the ladder. And that was probably the first experience we've had in that house. Then there was a moment when her ex-boyfriend her boyfriend at the time was taking a shower, and he seen a head of a brunette woman walk by while he was in the shower, and he thought it was my mom playing a prank because she did that a lot. She pranked us all the time. So when he looked out of the shower, there was nobody there. And then our downstairs neighbor, she said she always seen 2 kids sitting at the foot of her bed. And this was when she would go to bed almost every night. She said she would see 2 children just sitting at the foot of her bed. And there was one night where she went to actually go touch them. And as she got closer, they just faded away. I've never experienced anything in there. I was too focused on like skateboarding at that age and stuff like that. So, I wasn't trying to look for anything. I didn't have any experiences. My mom said she did see, while she was sleeping, she said she would hear a baby crying in her closet. But I never experienced there. My first experience with the paranormal, which was really what got me intrigued with the paranormal and start wanting to ghost hunt, was I was at a friend's house, and my friend and his family, they would always say like, "Oh, this house is haunted," and I'm just like, "Yeah, okay," and not really believe it. I was probably more of a skeptic back then. But there was one night where I was sitting on their couch, and behind me, probably to the right a little bit, and behind me was his mom's bedroom. I was sitting on the couch, and I just hear like a whisper in my ears, and it said my name. It said Ben, and I turned around, and I'm like, it was probably nothing, But then it happened again, but this time it was louder, and I could actually feel a breath on my ear, and like in my head, I was freaking out. I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" And so I didn't want to show my friends that I was freaking out. So I was just like, well, it's late. I got to go home. so I went home, and on my way home, I'm like, what just happened? And I think that's what really sparked my interest in paranormal.
That's pretty interesting. I had some stuff happen to me when I was growing up. We lived in this house that was 100 years old. And man, our doors would just pop open out of nowhere. Nobody'd be there. And you could hear people walking around. You wouldn't hear anybody walking around. It was just a creepy place to live, man. It was crazy. But what about you, Amber? What was your experience that you had that led you into being so interested?
Well, the first experience I ever had was I was pretty young, actually. I used to stay with my aunt all the time, and she had this really old apartment. It was huge, but it was super, super old. And we would always it didn't start off anything crazy or wild. And then slowly, the longer that she was there, weird things would happen. I had my own room there, and we would come out in the morning, and I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning, all of my toys would be out in the kitchen, because it was attached to the kitchen with I had police cars and all this type of stuff going off, everything going off at the same time. And then it would happen a couple nights whenever I was there. So she's like, stop playing around. I'm like, I'm not. So one night she took the batteries out of everything. And then it happened again, still sirens, everything going off with no batteries, no nothing in them.
Would you consider that some poltergeist stuff going on?
Yeah, I didn't think it was threatening or anything. And there was one time when we were sleeping, because I always wanted to stay with her in her room, and we woke up, and there was literally because it was her and then her boyfriend at the time, there was a lady in a dress on one side, very faint, and then a guy with a top hat on the other side, looking over them. So I don't know if that was a projection of someone watching them, but it was really creepy.
That's crazy.
So it's always been something I've been super interested in, and having all different types of little experiences that you try to shake off. And then finally we had that opportunity, and building on it ever since.
Yeah, I've always been interested in the paranormal side of things and what it actually is, and it's just an odd reality.
It's crazy when you have an experience that's super hard to explain.
It's an odd reality to wrap your mind around. It really is, because we know so little about the paranormal side of this world that's pretty much why we call it paranormal. We just don't know about it. It's the unknown. So I'm sure you guys work full-time jobs on top of doing your investigations.
We all work full-time jobs. I mean, everyone except for one of our investigators' son. He's 14 years old, and he does not act like a 14-year-old.
Oh, he's so mature.
So mature for his age. He's like a little adult.
He's not little.
Yeah, he's not little. He's about 6 feet tall.
So how many people do you have at
Right now we have 4 of us. We're about to take in 2 more people who are going to be investigating the castle with us, and then we have another major investigation that 2 more people are going to be joining us on.
You say the castle. We're gonna save this for a little bit later, but that's a upcoming investigation you have that's pretty big for you guys, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
And big for our community too.
That-
It's been a big in our community.
it's infamous for being ghostly, isn't it not?
I mean, there's been stories. I mean, the place has been passed down quite a few times. So, I mean, yeah, people have had their stories there. So we'll find out.
Nice. So, how often are y'all able to get out and about and investigate these interesting places?
As much as we can. I mean, we have 5 kids, full-time jobs. So anytime we can plan accordingly, that's when we'll go and have an investigation.
And how much are your kids involved into this?
Well, my son, he's obsessed. He's he you know, he constantly wants to go, you know, explore or go ghost hunting. Anytime he has a chance, he'll ask us if we can go ghost hunting.
That's awesome. I think
He's just not at that maturity level yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's 12 years old, but he acts like younger. So
I think it's something that draws us in so heavily is because we can't answer the questions that we ask ourselves about it. And that's what draws us to be so interested into it. And it's kind of like drugs, man. It'll just drag you along with it. So, so what are kind of the dangers that you come across going into these buildings? You know, physical, mental, wise, anything
I wouldn't
like that?
say I wouldn't say we come across anything dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people say that there's malicious activity going on and stuff like that, but me personally, we've never come across anything malicious. I think the biggest dangers about entering in a place is walking in the dark and just looking at like a 3-inch screen and you don't know where you're going.
Right. So you're not worried about getting possessed or anything like that? Do you believe in all that?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried about getting possessed.
What about being followed by these ghosts? What do you think about that?
Like getting an attachment and having us follow us home and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not too worried about that either. I mean, I believe it could happen, but I mean, honestly, we would kind of welcome it.
Really?
I mean, as long as it wasn't malicious, as long as it didn't, you know, hurt our kids. If you know, if we heard footsteps every now and then, or a door close, or cabinets open, I mean, that wouldn't bother us.
Yeah, we had a long conversation that one day when we were doing prep for this show about this kind of stuff. It was a very interesting conversation we all had.
Definitely.
What are some of the preparations you do mentally and physically before you start an investigation?
Well, before we start, we always do a walkthrough of the buildings we're gonna go in. You know, people that own it, people that maybe take care of the building. We always get a walkthrough. We always get their experiences. Always the history. We want to know the history of the building.
Research.
Yeah, we'll always do our own research as well. That's a big thing in paranormal investigating. If you're just going in and doing just the investigation and not knowing anything about the building or the land that the building is on or deaths that may have occurred in that building, then you're only doing half the job. So a lot of paranormal investigating has to do with research.
Amber, are you the one that mostly does most of the research while he's driving?
It's kind of both ways
Yeah, I think it's
because of
50-50.
our work schedule. So there's some buildings where are some places like the archives where by the time I get out of work, they're closed. So he'll be able to do that. I try to do like some of the more like actual research with
like online research.
Or if we get a chance to go through like the library or things like that. We also try to, I'm basically like everybody else has horrible chicken scratch writing. So that is a big chunk of me, is having to try to take everything down.
Yeah, when we go through the walkthrough of these buildings, she's the one that takes the notes because she has the best handwriting. So,
Right.
so yeah, when we do the walkthroughs through the building, she's taking notes. We're just taking in all the information. I'm pretty much finding the spots to place DVRs, our stationary cameras and stuff like that. Any place that has visual sightings, that's where we will place a camera. But yeah, other than that, she's the one that pretty much takes all the notes and makes sure that we have names, the hot spots in the building, stuff like that.
Nice. So that's great that it's a 50-50 split between you guys. So that means that your relationship
it's a lot easier now that we're starting to have more people come along too. So
yeah, a lot more people can do their own research and like add on to what you're doing. That's you're growing, and that's perfect, right? Because it was
absolutely.
It was overnight. You guys were a sensation, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, before we did the Amsterdam Free Library, we probably had like maybe 200 followers, if that. And then we posted about doing the Amsterdam Library, and our community just exploded. They loved it. They wanted, some of them even wanted to come along. I think within 2 days we had over 1,000 followers, and I guess Amsterdam community just loves this stuff.
That's awesome.
Here we have a lot of old buildings in Amsterdam, New York. So a lot of them are still standing. The castle was built in the 1800s. The Amsterdam Library, it was built in like 1903. So we have some old stuff, and it has a lot of history.
You live in one of the oldest parts of America.
I would say so.
Yeah. Well, that colonial settlers.
I mean, Amsterdam actually used to be, booming back in the day. Back in the day, Amsterdam was like a little Vegas. So, and slowly when rug mills, because that's what we're known for. We're known as rug mills, making carpets and rugs and stuff. And I think when the rug mills started to leave, this little city started to die out a little bit, and just became what it is today.
What is the likelihood that one of these old buildings that you run across just on an everyday basis would be haunted?
I'd say pretty unlikely, because when we go into a place that's supposedly haunted, about 85% of the claims that are being told to us and people's experiences can be debunked by something as simple as pipes banging in the basement causing footsteps, wind closing a door, or headlights from the outside coming inside and reflecting off different things and creating shadows that people think are shadow figures. I think about 85% of people's claims could be debunked. So about maybe 12-15% we go somewhere that's haunted.
Okay.
Well, that's a big part of what we do, is debunking.
Yeah, it's a big part of what we do is debunking.
I see what you're saying, but yeah, I walk into old buildings all the time doing service work in my trade, and a lot of that stuff is just old.
Especially when you're walking into an old building, because if you go into an old building, just sit down and just listen to the quiet, just listen to the building, and you'll hear creaks in the floors, you'll hear just the building settling on its own,
wind blowing,
exactly,
all that stuff.
And people who aren't paranormal investigators will hear that and automatically think there's a ghost in their house or a ghost in their building.
Okay. So what are your favorite methods of trying to get evidence of the paranormal?
Well, I think for any paranormal investigator, the best evidence to get would be, a full body apparition on camera. But that's rare. That's super rare to get. But one of my most favorite ways to get any type of interaction is through an EVP. An EVP, which is an electronic voice phenomenon. And it's you capture a voice on a recorder or a device that you didn't hear with your own ears. Now sometimes you can hear a voice with your own ears, but that would just be a disembodied voice. But when you get an answer to a question on a recorder and you didn't hear that answer at the time, I love it. I think that's one of the best pieces of evidence you can get.
And that's called a intelligent haunting. Is that correct?
That would be an intelligent haunting, yes.
Okay, I got you.
If you're having an interaction.
So what's the differences in hauntings that you can find in a place?
The two most common are residual and intelligent, which a residual haunting is pretty much a traumatic moment that happened in that area, and that energy is just recorded in the atmosphere pretty much. So it plays over and over again like a recorder rewinding itself.
Okay. So it's just energy stuck in the spot.
Right.
Exactly, yes. So if you see something walking through a door and you see that, 3 times a month, it's just somebody walking through a door. It could be, that person that left that energy there is just walked through that door thousands and thousands of times before and just left an imprint. And, it just keeps playing over and over again. I mean, they don't know you're there. They can't interact with you. I don't believe they know that they're dead, so.
There is thoughts and theories that pets can pick up things that we can't see. Have you ever tried to take a pet like a dog or a cat into an investigation with you?
I agree. I believe a pet can see and hear things that we can't. But have I ever taken one? I have not. I have 2 dogs. I would love to take them, but they wouldn't care if there was entities there or not. They would just run around the fucking building like idiots.
Yeah.
Gonna pet me? That's all they care about.
It'd have to be like a really good trained animal, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You need an animal that's, they're pretty well trained, but when it comes to being able to just run off and do their own thing, they're gonna do it. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, you couldn't really trust a cat either because he'd be chasing mice. You're right. I mean, I think
you're in an old abandoned place.
I think we've debunked that method right here. Your pets get too distracted too easily.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of like cadaver dogs going to people's houses
and
that are supposedly houses and properties to see, they could get a hit on like possibly a body that's buried or something. But other than that, I mean, I've never taken an animal into any place with us. I'd love to. That'd be awesome. But
that'd be interesting taking like a trained German Shepherd from a canine unit that is so well behaved. Yeah. That would probably be what it'd have to take to get any kind of evidence off of that.
Dog.
Yeah. So what are some of the most haunted places that y'all have seen so far?
I think one of the most haunted places I've been to so far is actually located right behind our house, and it's an abandoned factory. They actually just not till I think 2017 they marked it as like a historical building.
It's like a rug mill.
It was called the Powerhouse. But every time I've been investigating that building since about 2008, 2009. And that place, anytime I go in it, I get some sort of personal experience or some sort of evidence. And I believe I sent you a clip of an EVP we got there before. So in this clip, what you hear is Amber's trying to ask me a question. And when she asks me the question, I say, "Did I what?" And right after I say, "Did I what?" you'll hear a voice, like a loud whisper. And then you'll hear whispering throughout the entire clip, but you can't understand any of it. I don't know what it's saying. I don't know anything about that. But the very last part of the clip, you hear a woman whispering, "Did somebody burn something?" And that freaked us out so bad because it wasn't Amber because she was talking at the time this said this, and
Gavin was talking.
yeah, Gavin was also talking at the same time. So let's see if you could hear this.
What? Was that what?
Shining through a hole over there.
Why? What did you say?
It's pitch black, and there's like a light down here.
What?
And it's coming from
Does
the
that lead down?
In that EVP, you hear that whispering, and then at the end, So what freaked you out about is somebody burning?
She said, "Did somebody burn something?" And it sounded like a question. I don't know if it was pointed towards us or if it was just a residual question. Maybe she's still working in the building, and she's asking somebody else this question. But it just sounded so close to our microphone that the only girl that was in the building was talking at the time, and my son was actually talking with her. So to get a question like that from a female, it freaked me out a little bit when I was going through the digital voice recorder. So
I got a similar story. Me and a buddy of mine up in Washington State while I was in the Navy, we went and checked out an artillery magazine where they stored artillery. And we were in there with a recorder, and his name got whispered into the recorder. It was the most interesting thing. And his old lady she was a Wiccan, and she did this ritual after she heard that. And when she did that, right at the end, she said something. I forget what it was, but there was this loud knock on the back freaking window, and it was just the most amazing thing that you could ever freaking. It's like, what was that? Oh my God!
We had a similar experience like that at Amsterdam Free Library with the knocking.
That was crazy.
That was probably one of the best moments we've had. We spent 2 nights in that library, and that was probably one of the best experiences we've had.
Nice.
So me and Amber were downstairs in the basement, and we were just sitting down and trying to get a feel of the building, because it was when we first started investigating.
Yeah, you were in the front, and I was like in the back of the coal room.
Yep. And our other 2 investigators were 2 floors up inside what they call the children's section. It's all children's books and stuff like that upstairs. So they were nowhere near us, and we heard 4 really loud knocks on the basement door. And it was loud, like it startled us, and we had to ask ourselves, like, was that them? Are they trying to get our attention? So as I was going upstairs, they were downstairs to ask us if that was us. So that was a pretty crazy moment, getting 4 loud knocks like that.
Right. So this factory that you have right behind your house, so is that the place that keeps drawing you back to it?
That place draws me back a lot, So, want me to tell you a story about that place?
Let's hear it.
All right. I have a bunch of stories about that place. So probably one of the first times we wanted to investigate that factory. Like we knew it was there for the longest time. And this was when I had my old group back in 2008 or 2009 called API, which was Amsterdam Paranormal Investigations. So we started walking to the factory. We were just kids at the time. We had I think we had like 1 EMF detector. We had a little Sony Handycam that was pretty cheap, and a couple digital recorders. So we made our way to the factory, and there was about 6 of us, and we were all walking in a group. And when you first walk into the building, it's like one side is a hallway that could be completely lit up by sunlight. It's like, because there's a bunch of windows there, but it wasn't light. We went at night, but the other side is just pitch black, because the hallway has no windows. It's just a couple of rooms. There's a couple little corridors on the right side, and it's just pitch black all the way down. So as we were all walking down that dark hallway, we heard what sounded like rocks being thrown at the wall right next to us and just shattering. And you could hear it. You could hear them hit the wall, shatter, and then fall to the ground. And it was crazy because we didn't realize, like, is there anybody throwing rocks at us? Like, is there somebody in this building? And we had flashlights with us. We were looking all around. And it happened 3 more times where we got rocks, like, whipped, not at us, but at the wall that's, like, not even a foot away from us, just shatter into, like, little pieces and hit the floor. And we were like, all right, this is scary already.
That sounds like some very compelling evidence.
It was scary, especially for, us just being kids and, being paranormal investigators back then. Like, you didn't think you would get anything like significant, but I think that freaked us out a little bit. We stayed there. We were there for a good 2 hours or so. We didn't get anything else after that, but we went back, and this was probably one of the craziest moments of my life investigating. So when we went in, they have this long hallway that leads to a different part of the building, but that part of the building was collapsed. So even if you got to the end of the hallway, you couldn't go anywhere else because it was just rubble everywhere. So me and a friend decided we were going to walk down that hallway. And as we were walking down the hallway, we took maybe 3 or 4 steps. And he was like, this floor does not seem sturdy at all. Like, I feel like we're going to fall right through this floor. And I was like, it's fine. And I started hopping on it. And I hopped like a good 3 or 4 times. And I was like, see, nothing's happening. So I hopped one more time, and you just heard a crack. And at that moment, the floor collapsed from under our feet. And as it was collapsing, I had to jump from the part that was collapsing onto the back onto the platform. And I turn around after I hit the platform. My friend is like sprawled out like Superman. Like, his hands are holding pipes, and his feet are like on the edge, and he had to like inch his way back to the platform. And when I looked down after the floor collapse, it was probably a good 20-25 foot drop into a creek. So when we wanted to watch that footage back because we were recording it at the time, and it was pretty funny to watch back. But if you listen closely in the footage, right before the floor collapsed, you hear somebody whisper, "Watch out." And it was like one of the freakiest things that we've ever fucking seen in our life.
Oh my God. I bet you about pooped yourself on that one, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was a crazy, near death experience kind of moment.
That is a leave.
At the bottom, at the bottom in that creek, it was like all sharp rocks, and it was crazy.
Oh, that is a leave a rosebud in your pants type of moment right there. Oof.
That's most traumatic moment, maybe, because when the floor collapsed, it was like, holy fuck, am I gonna die?
There was some adrenaline running through you. There was some excitement in that. There was some excitement after that. You just lived through a poop my pants moment.
Yep. There was another time that we went to this factory, and it was probably about good 6 of us going again, but it was all kind of different people this time. And we took a different path to the factory this time. And on our way there, like, we were all excited. We were like, yeah, we're going to do this factory again. And I think as we were getting closer to the factory, like, the air just started getting heavier. And everyone in our group felt it. And like, when we got right up to the building, we just sat there for about 20 minutes just staring at the building. And we all looked at each other, and we're just like, I don't think we should go in there tonight. We all had the feeling that something bad was going to happen. And it was probably one of the worst feelings I've ever had, going to investigate somewhere, because the air was just so heavy and so thick, and everybody felt it. And we're just like, yeah, we can't do this tonight.
Do you listen to your gut when that happens?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just don't go in at all?
No. Because if you get that feeling, I mean, there will be some places, yeah, we'll go and we'll investigate it, even if we have that feeling. But places like that where it's just an abandoned factory pretty much where, anything can happen. Yeah, we won't go in there.
I got you.
We're not trying to get hurt.
So what's the biggest bust you've ever had on an investigation? Was one that you were all hyped up for and then just was like, no.
Yeah. So
That was a bad one.
I forgot the little town it was called. What was it? It was in upstate New York.
Ellenville.
It's near Ellenville, New York, but
Starts with an E, actually.
it starts with an N. But yeah, we went to this little town, and we went to this place called the Shanley Hotel, and this is a place that was featured on shows like Ghost Hunters. I think it was on like America's Most Haunted Places or something like that. So we're all excited to go. We paid, I think, around $700 to get to investigate there. The stories they had were absolutely ridiculous. Like, they had a story where in their basement, that's where they stored bodies in a morgue. And we went down there and we looked, and it's literally like one of those big coal heaters where back in like, what, maybe the 1800s, they put coal. Yeah, they'd shovel coal in there and heat up the house. And that right there, like, this is a little sketchy. So then they started to say there was a prison not too far away. It's like a maximum security prison. They say when people die there, they come to the hotel, and they say they have a serial killer in their third floor. And there was never any reports of a serial killer ever being in the town. So, just the stories they made up just so people could come and, pay money to investigate and things like that. Like, I'm sure it's haunted. It's an old place.
There were some children that died there.
There were children that died there, things like that. But just the stories, the fabricated stories just turned us off. And that whole night, we stayed the night there, and we didn't have one single experience. We didn't have one single piece of evidence, just crazy stories that they pretty much fabricated just to, stay open so people come and pay. And
boy, that does sound like a bust. Out $700, and then you got nothing to show for it. Be demanding my money back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the place is haunted with something. I'm sure there's something there. It just didn't happen the night we showed up. We can't just turn on a switch and have paranormal activity come on.
Yeah, that's true.
The worst part was they just added so much.
If you watch the Ghost Hunters episode, I think it was season 2 that they investigated the Shanley Hotel.
Have any of those claims.
They didn't have any. Half the claims that they told us, like, they didn't have that in the show. They didn't. Even at the end where they were doing the reveal, they even told the owner, like, you need to get the facts of this building before you start opening it up for people to investigate.
Oh man.
So, there was just who was. They said it was a brothel. I didn't see anything about it ever being a brothel. They said it was like a gentleman's club for the mob or some shit like that. I don't know. Just a lot of their stories, they didn't seem very legit. But we'll probably get a lot of hate on that because that place is pretty known by a lot of paranormal investigators. We didn't investigate. We didn't experience anything. Their stories just seemed a little bullshit in my eyes. So it is what it is.
They probably exaggerate it to, try to get more people to do it.
A lot of it was exaggerated.
So, do you think that there is a link between the spirit world and religions at all?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, I don't. I believe that there are spirits who maybe in their human life when they were, alive, they were very spiritual and very religious, and they took that with them in death. And that's where you get, this, I see a lot of EVPs of, people bring up of like maybe somebody saying a prayer or, something like that. But I don't think there's any of it.
So, what do you say to the critics that think that all of it's just bullshit?
Skeptics, right?
Yes.
There's always going to be skeptics. You can have the best piece of paranormal evidence ever, and they'll still nitpick the shit out of it, and they'll still, tell you like, oh, that's edited, or wherever you go, there's always going to be a skeptic, no matter what. So I don't think there's anything you could say to them to convince them. That's the type of thing where they have to have their own experience. They have to, to believe themselves, they have to have their own experience somewhere.
So, what are your thoughts on the spirit world, and what do you actually think it is?
I don't really think anyone knows what it is. I think we could all say like what it could be, but nobody knows. I think a lot of it is people that when they die, they have unfinished business. I think when they died, maybe they didn't tell someone they loved them before they went, or maybe there was something that they didn't finish before they died, and they're still around to finish what they started. So I think a lot of it has to do with unfinished business.
Okay. Yeah, I could see how that would have a lot to do with it. And what do you think about the ones that are just stuck in that pattern, the residual hauntings? Is that kind of the same concept? Or are they just victims of a tragic event that their energy just at that moment was so strong that everything around it was just soaked with it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It was just a traumatic moment in time that was recorded into the atmosphere, and now it's just playing over and over again. They don't know we are there. We don't know they're, well, obviously if we see something, we're going to know they're there. But I don't think they can't interact with us. I did have a question for, other paranormal investigators if they're interested, like, do you believe that residual haunting can turn into an intelligent haunting? Because what if, they walk through the same door they've walked through a million times? What if that one time they walk through it and they notice something's off, like the change of the wall, like the color of the wall, or, a picture that they didn't have hanging was hanging up? That's my question. Like, do you think residual haunting can turn intelligent?
That's an interesting question. And I hope people get back to us on that with an answer or what they think. Yeah. Shoot us a message, You have an investigation coming up that's pretty big for you guys, and you mentioned it at the beginning of the show. You want to go ahead and give our listeners the big surprise? Yeah,
I mean, we have a couple coming up, actually. But this one coming up, we actually have the walkthrough tomorrow of the Amsterdam Castle. Yeah, it's big for our community. This is one that our community, when we asked what we should investigate next, our community, a lot of them said Amsterdam Castle. I think because a lot of people might have had experiences there, and they want to see what we could find. Yeah, the Amsterdam Castle is a big one, but we also have another one on April 22nd coming up, and it's actually one that was it was on shows like Ghost Hunters, it was on Ghost Adventures, it was on Destination Fear. All the big paranormal shows you'll see this place on. It's called the Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Hell yeah.
And we're super excited about that one.
Nice. We're going to have you guys back on so that way you can tell us about your experiences.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait.
I think that's all the time we have today. Make sure you guys go to their Facebook, look these guys up, East Coast Paranormal Investigations. Give them a like, follow them.
Also on Instagram at East Coast Paranormal 518.
Make sure you guys go give us a thumbs up and follow us at the Blue Collar Enlightenment Show. Thanks for listening.